Vettivelu is a poet and storyteller. She is currently based in Toronto. She is the daughter of the diasporas of South Indian and Sri Lanka and seeks to preserve and document memory by combining personal narratives with public histories. She believes in questioning the validity of borders through her work while conceiving poetry that is borderless and is written from a place of radical love and healing.
Hi, how's everyone doing today? Awesome. My name is Kayal Vizhi. I'm a writer and a poet based here in Toronto. I'm South Indian Sri Lankan. I was born in Tamil Nadu in South India, and I was raised in Colombo in Sri Lanka. And when I was 14, my family migrated to Canada. Storytelling has always been such a big part of who I am growing up. My mother introduced me to books when I was really young. So by the time I was 5, I was starting to write my own stories because I wanted to recreate the magic I often found when I read books. And a huge part of what I'm currently working on is examining what it means to be Tamil. So I want to kind of open up that conversation by asking you what it means to be Tamil for you. What does it mean to be Tamil? Anyone? Yes?
For me, it's about speaking the language, being able to communicate with my grandparents, staying in touch with my family back home. My identity is not just being Canadian, but rather being a transnational citizen.
And I totally relate to that. Thank you. Anyone else? Yeah?
Learning about our culture.
Okay, awesome. So for me, growing up in Colombo, or just growing up within my family, there was a certain sense that to be Tamil was to be restricted. Because I felt like any conversation at home that started about what it meant to be Tamil was always limited to what I should wear, or who I should love, or what dreams I had the right to dream. But moving to Canada, migrating here, just meeting other Tamil people and just having my own experiences, I came to realize that there are many, many ways of being Tamil. And that Tamil, written Tamil in itself, is over 2,500 years old. Tamil is ever changing. It's so multitudinous. And to put Tamil in a box and say that certain people are more Tamil than others because they do certain things, or that these are the only ways of being Tamil, is to do Tamil a great injustice. So through my writing, I try to create space where I can talk about how there are many identities and there are many ways of being Tamil, and I'd like to explore Tamil as a movement, as Tamil as music, Tamil as a memory, and Tamil as a way of loving. So the first poem that I will be sharing today, it's addressed to my mentor, and it goes something like this. Dearly shy. Writing is forgiveness, so I write every day. My poems are bowls full of green tea, burning sage, basil and mint, rose water. Dearly shy, writing is healing, so I write every day. My poems are late-night Carnatic classics pouring into my wounds, light where there was once only sorrow, shruti, raga, tala, swara. Dearly shy, writing is remembering, so I write every day. My poems are swollen rivers, spilling forth slender narratives from the hips of Kaveri, Ganga, Yamuna, Saraswati, and Narmada. Dearly shy, my words are pregnant with the earth, and my valleys dream of giving birth to mountains. I dream of streetlight sonnets and sestinas that speak the language of the birds. Dearly shy, there is history leaking out of me. There are stories in the veins of my pen, ink waiting to reach places hands sometimes fail to. Poems that carry the feral heartache of my ancestors who loved before me, whose love raised my poetry. My skin is the meeting place of dusk and sea sand, and my tongue is a shore that Tamil refuses to stop kissing, even when my language knows loss the way I know my mother's voice in a crowd. Dearly shy, I wear words like talismans to ward off the silence my mother once spoke. Some nights I wonder if the still water sadness in a Tamil woman's womb is hereditary. Tamil wretches its ancestral grief all over the streets of Sri Lanka. I write this poem in Toronto. My mouth is a miscarriage of stories. Dearly shy, this poem is survival. It is a reminder that my belly is not a place for bloated stories that forget to see daylight. That there lives a love in me that writes sheet music every time my heart breaks into a bleeding crescendo, that every time I write I feel closer to God. This is how I experience love. Poetry saves me, satisfies me in ways people sometimes fail to. Dearly shy, my people revel in the humble glow of their evening skin. They urge me to speak their truths, plucking out meaning, urging me to speak their truths, weaving strands of light, urging me to speak with fire, with smoke, with kindness, with the wild laughter of my mother and her mother and her mother. Dearly shy, every poem is a sparrow that rolls off my tongue like a heat wave. The sparrows, they become birds. They become stories with enough fire to heat houses, stories with enough warmth to gather my children and my grandchildren and their children, as if my body is a fireplace, as if my bones are timber, as if my breath feels like coming home. Thank you. The second poem that I would be sharing today, it kind of examines my relationship to English and Tamil, so my relationship to language and also to migration. It's called Mouth Like a Funeral, Notes on Migration. 1. I was born with Tamil steeped in my tongue. It was language before I knew what language was. 2. English often sits in my mouth uncomfortably, unsure, tense. It's a miscarriage, a botched, bloody affair. I wear it like cheap lipstick. I cannot speak it without causing my words to color and darken like a bruise. 3. On the weekends, my mother and I would take the bus from Udumalpet to Coimbatore to visit her family. We would count windmills on the way and read Enid Blyton. During these visits, my great-grandmother Mahalakshmi would sit me on her lap and sing Tamil folk songs. And I would repeat after her, one cascading line of poetry after another, my infant tongue still unruly, often swallowing whole syllables. 4. In this country, my tongue often falters, trips and falls. Hurt people, so my broken English often breaks my teeth. There is a lisp in my body language. 5. My 2-bedroom apartment in Ottawa is white. There are white curtains that keep the sunlight out. It will soon be winter and everything will be a suffocating swirl of whiteness. My relatives back home tell me that I have become fairer and they remark that it must be the weather. It's always snowing there now. Their thick accent is an anchor. I find solace in the jingle, jangling, stumbling, tumbling, empty stomach grumbling of English in their mouths. 6. In this country, my laughter is dishonest. It is taught to occupy as little space as possible, to travel with too much baggage. It stands in the customs counter, hands writhing, sweating its sorrow onto a passport that knows nothing about the distance between my body and the body of my lover's absence. When it arrives in your doorstep, rusty from over-air-conditioned airports, hotel rooms, taxis, it will sound like an echo, an afterthought, an immigrant. 7. Sometimes in Toronto, I search the street for Sri Lanka, for the music, the laughter, the heat, familiar like a lover. But I don't miss the checkpoints. I don't miss the men with guns who ask my aunts for their identity cards. 8. In this country, the songs of my great-grandmother disappear like rain. In this country, I am alone, and there is no language, and there is no word in English or Tamil to describe my loneliness. 9. Some nights, Tamil becomes the ache that wakes me at 3 in the morning, knocking my door loudly, opening up all the windows, eating my food, leaving me hungry for something I do not understand, yelling, "Remember me." 10. It's another day in the West. Summer is ending. I put on my dark glasses. My eyes are red-rimmed from seeing too many sunsets. And the last poem, it's a short one. It's called Tamil. Goes something like this. 70,000 years ago, a dark woman with a sky in her mouth spoke the language of the birds. Each tongue was a winged dream. They called her Africa. 70,000 years ago, her children journeyed eastward. In South India, they were beachcombers with an aviary in their chests. Here, Tamil began as birdsong. 6 years ago, the man on the TV announced the war in Sri Lanka has ended. In Jaffna, the bodies piled up. Tamil became the mad woman with a siege of grief nesting in her hair, cawing funeral hymns, but no one listened. Never again, they said, but no one listened. When I tried to talk to my friends back home about the war, they're uncomfortable and pretend there was no war, no blood, no loss. Some nights, even my appa wonders, has the war really ended? In Toronto, my amma dreams. She awaits the day Tamil becomes birdsong once again. She says, welcome, daughter. When you speak, you will free the seabirds in your great-grandmother's ribcage. You are solace. You are my salt. Thank you.